I did a video about this about a month ago, but since this is the week that all these changes are taking effect, they start on the 17th, I thought I'd do one more video to kind of let you know what's going on with the real estate market and how these new rules are going to come into play. You're going to be seeing all kinds of news articles this week, most of them with sensational headlines about how you don't have to pay, nobody's going to pay anything anymore, but I just want to set the record straight and tell you how it's going to affect you as a buyer or you as a seller with these new rules that are coming into play. The first thing you're going to see in all these news headlines is that sellers don't have to pay any more commissions. That's always been negotiable. I talked about it in the last video, and really nothing has changed. The big thing that has changed is that we're no longer allowed as a listing agent to put these amounts of compensation in our MLS anymore. Sellers can still offer compensation that can be used to pay a buyer's agent. So don't listen to all this stuff about that all this is going away. You have always had the choice as a seller to pay whatever you want in commission, and how that worked is you would pay, say, 6%. And it would be paid to the brokerage that's listing your house. Then that brokerage would share the commission, 3% of it, or 2.5%, whatever they decide upon, with the buyer's agent. After this lawsuit, they're trying to cut back on that. They think that we were all conspiring to keep the commissions up, which, whatever, you can read about the lawsuit and make your own opinion, but it's always been negotiable. So now, the way it's going to work is that if I'm representing a buyer, I'm going to have to call the listing agent on another house and find out if they're offering commission to a buyer's agent. Because let's face it, nobody wants to work for free, and I wouldn't survive too long if I didn't make any money. So we're going to have to figure out what they're offering for commission, and if they don't tell us, or if it's zero, there's a couple choices you have at that point as a buyer. So how these changes are going to affect you as a buyer is it's not going to be much. It's going to be me as the buyer's agent. I'm going to have to check and see what they're offering for compensation, or if they're offering anything for me to represent you as a buyer. Obviously, this is in effect for every agent, every buyer's agent. They're going to have to call and find out. Well, nobody wants to work for free. So if the seller is offering zero or not willing to work with buyer's agents, and you find a house, that you want to buy, you have three choices at that point. You can either pay the commission yourself to your buyer's agent. You can have the buyer's agent write up in the contract, ask for concessions at closing to help cover those costs, or you can do the dual agency thing. The problem with the dual agency situation, and it's always been like this, and I've never liked it. I'm not saying it can't work, but it's very hard to be a dual agent, because here's what happens. So the listing agent of the house, he's already met with the seller, they're buddies, they have a relationship, and then all of a sudden a buyer shows up, and the agent is going to represent both parties. He's going to represent the seller and the buyer. Well, I would argue as a buyer's agent that I am, for the most part, I'm actually keeping the seller out of lawsuits just as much as I'm keeping the buyer out of lawsuits, because dual agency, if you look it up, the number one cause of lawsuits is dual agency. And as I just explained it, you can imagine how easy that can happen, because the listing agent is now representing both parties. Well, if something goes awry on either side, they're going to go after one another and say that they're going to think that the agent was on one side or the other. It just depends on the situation. And it's just very hard to do dual agency. So as a seller's agent, if you're doing dual agency, now you're not allowed to talk to your seller legally about what the buyer's told you that he could afford. Say the house is listed at $400,000 and the buyer tells you in confidence, because you're now representing him, he tells you that I can only go up to $395. Well, you can't go tell your buyer or your seller that that's all he's got. You can't discuss money at all. But again, when things start happening in deals, people start accusing one side or the other, well, you know, you told him more, or you told him more, and it just turns into a mess, and then that's when lawyers get called. The other thing that it affects buyers, if they're doing dual agency, is there's things that a buyer agent is going to do for you, or they should do for you, as far as revealing things about the neighborhood that they may not tell you, or they don't have to tell you everything. They're supposed to, but if there's something that, you know, they may think you not like, that they legally don't have to tell you, like a murder in the house. That's one of the things here in Montana that doesn't have to be disclosed. I completely disagree with that. And you may not care, but if you do and you buy the house and move in and find out from your neighbor that, oh my God, did you hear what happened before this guy bought it? You know, that could be a big thing for you, that they don't have to tell you. So if you have a buyer's agent, he's going to find out, or he's supposed to look into these things and find out these different items that come up that may affect your vision of the house, or what you want or don't want in a house. And as a seller, this isn't going to affect you any differently than it would have before this rule came into play. Commissions have always been negotiable. If you want to offer 0, you can offer 0. But a lot of people that are working with buyer's agents are going to want their agent to get paid. So if you're not offering anything, they may not want to see your house. So keep that in mind. Again, you've always had the option to put whatever commission you want in there, but now that you're going to see in these news articles that, oh, you don't have to pay commission anymore, and this is true, but it's always been true. And just think about, you have to, I've talked about this in other videos if you're a seller, you can't be personal about your house. You have to look at it as an item, like you would as something you're buying at Target. And I know that sounds cold, and I know that your kid may have grown up there and all these things, but the buyers coming in, they don't know that. They don't really care about that. So keep that in mind. And if you can look at your house as just a product that you're trying to sell and take away the personal memories and feelings, if you can take those out of the equation, you'll do a lot better, and your house will sell much quicker, and you'll be willing to work with buyer's agents that could save you too as a seller from the dual agency situation that I talked about earlier. So if you want any more information about this lawsuit and how it's going to affect everything, reach out anytime. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call, text, or email for more information, and don't forget to watch our other videos about Montana.